Like, subscribe, and turn on notification for more amazing video. Respect!
She whispered, "We'd make beautiful children human." On patrol, he was caught between desire and duty. The polished marble floors of House Draven's grand palace reflected the soft glow of alien chandeliers, casting a kaleidoscope of colors across the ornate walls. Damon Murphy stood at attention, his back straight as a rail, eyes scanning the diplomatic reception hall with practiced precision. 6 months into his contract as a security specialist for the prestigious alien house, and he still felt like an outsider among the elegant, blue-skinned Dravani aristocracy. His black and silver armor, emblazoned with the house's emblem of intertwined silver serpents, felt heavier than usual tonight. The reception hall buzzed with the gentle hum of alien conversations, punctuated by the occasional musical chime of crystalline glasses touching in toast. "Human," a voice called from behind. "The East Wing needs additional security. Lord Kalen is concerned about the Proxian delegation." Damon turned to face Commander Thorne, his immediate superior and a Dravani male with an impressive military record. "Yes, sir." Moving there now. As he navigated through the crowd, Damon caught fragments of conversations, political maneuverings, trade agreements, and the occasional whispered gossip. The Dravani elite barely acknowledged his presence, their eyes sliding past him as if he were merely another decorative element of the palace. That suited him fine. After 15 years in Earth's Special Forces and another 5 as a private contractor in the messier parts of the galaxy, anonymity was a welcome change. House Draven paid well for his expertise, and all he had to do was look intimidating and occasionally escort unwanted guests from the premises. The East Wing was quieter, with smaller groups engaged in more intimate conversations. Damon positioned himself near an archway adorned with gilded symbols, representing the ancient lineage of House Draven. From here, he could observe both the main corridor and the private meeting rooms. "They say the Proxians are pushing for more favorable terms in the mineral rights agreement," a young Dravani male said to his companion as they passed Damon. "Lord Kalen won't budge," the other replied. "Not with the wedding alliance so close to finalization." The wedding alliance. Damon had heard whispers about it throughout the palace. Lady Adra Draven, the house's only daughter and heiress, was to be married to Lord Vrex of House Proxia, sealing a treaty between the two powerful houses that had been rivals for generations. He'd never seen the Lady Adra in person. She was kept sequestered in the inner sanctum of the palace, surrounded by handmaidens and tutors, preparing for her role as a diplomatic bride. The rumors described her as a vision of Dravani beauty and grace, educated in the finest academies of the galactic core. A commotion at the far end of the corridor drew Damon's attention. A group of Dravani nobles parted like a wave, and for the first time he saw her. Lady Idra Dravan moved with fluid grace, her azure skin luminous under the soft lights. Silver-white hair cascaded down her back, adorned with delicate golden chains that matched the intricate patterns on her flowing gown. Her features were delicate yet strong, with high cheekbones and full lips that curved into a polite smile as she greeted the assembled guests. But it was her eyes that captured Damon's attention. Large, almond-shaped, and a deep violet that seemed to shift colors with every movement. Those eyes now swept across the room, assessing the guests with intelligence and curiosity, and then, unexpectedly, they locked onto him. Damon stiffened, maintaining his professional demeanor as Lady Idra's gaze lingered on him for a moment longer than necessary. He expected her to look away, to dismiss him as all the others did. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, as if puzzled by something. Then she smiled, not the practiced diplomatic smile she had offered the other guests, but something more genuine, almost mischievous. Damon felt a strange flutter in his chest, which he immediately suppressed. He was a professional, and she was not only his employer's daughter, but also the future bride of one of the most powerful lords in the sector. He returned his attention to scanning the room, deliberately avoiding looking in her direction again. For the next hour, Damon maintained his position, occasionally shifting to follow the movement of the Proxian delegation. He was so focused on his duty that he didn't notice Lady Idra's approach until she was standing directly before him. "You're new," she said, her voice melodious with an accent that made standard galactic sound like poetry. Damon snapped to attention. "Lady Istra, I've been in service to House Draven for 6 months." 6 months? She raised an elegant eyebrow. And yet this is the first time I've seen you. How curious. I've been assigned primarily to the outer perimeter and diplomatic halls, my lady. She studied him with those remarkable violet eyes. You're from Earth, yes? I've always found humans fascinating. Your species accomplished so much in such a short evolutionary time frame. Before Damon could respond, Commander Thorne appeared at his side. Lady Hydra, your father requests your presence with the Proxian delegation. A flash of something, annoyance, rebellion, crossed her features before she composed herself. Of course, Commander. I was just acquainting myself with our human guardian. As she turned to leave, her fingers brushed against Damon's arm. A touch so light it might have been accidental, except for the deliberate way her eyes held his for a heartbeat too long. Perhaps we'll speak again, Earthman, she said, then glided away to rejoin the diplomatic circle. Commander Thorne gave Damon a hard look. The Lady Hydra is promised to Lord Vrex. Remember your place, human. Yes, sir, Damon replied automatically, his training kicking in to mask the unexpected turmoil her brief interaction had stirred within him. The remainder of the evening passed without incident, but Damon found his thoughts returning to those violet eyes and that enigmatic smile. It was unprofessional, dangerous even, but he couldn't help himself. As the reception wound down, Damon was assigned to escort the last of the departing guests to their transports. He was checking the security seals on the main entrance when a soft voice spoke from the shadows of a nearby alcove. Earthman. He turned to find Lady Hydra standing alone, her handmaidens conspicuously absent. The diplomatic mask had slipped, revealing a young woman with a spark of defiance in her eyes. My lady, you shouldn't be here without your escorts. She stepped closer, close enough that he could smell the exotic floral scent that clung to her skin. I dismissed them. I wanted to speak with you privately. Every instinct told Damon to maintain distance, to call for her handmaidens, to do anything but remain alone with her. But he found himself rooted to the spot as she reached up and lightly touched his chin with slender blue fingers. We'd make beautiful children, human male, she whispered, her violet eyes searching his face with an intensity that sent heat coursing through his body. For the first time in his career, Damon Murphy was speechless, caught between desire and duty, between the woman before him and the oath he had sworn to her house. And in that moment, everything changed. The following week proved torturous for Damon. Every corridor patrol, every security detail found his eyes searching for a glimpse of azure skin and silver hair. Lady Hydra's whispered words echoed in his mind during quiet moments, disrupting his normally disciplined thoughts. Focus, Murphy, he muttered to himself as he conducted his morning security sweep of the Eastern Gardens. The twin suns of Drava Prime cast long shadows across the exotic flora, plants with phosphorescent leaves and flowers that changed colors with the temperature. Talking to yourself is the first sign of madness, Earthman. Damon spun around, hand instinctively moving to his sidearm before recognizing Lady Hydra. She stood beneath an archway of luminous vines, wearing a simpler gown than at the reception, though no less elegant. Two handmaidens hovered at a discreet distance. My lady, Damon bowed slightly, keeping his voice neutral, despite his racing pulse. These gardens aren't scheduled for use this morning. I wasn't aware I needed a schedule to walk in my own home, she replied, amusement dancing in her violet eyes. Besides, I dismissed most of my appointments today. The preparations for my arrangement with Lord Vrex have become quite tedious. She stepped closer, her handmaidens remaining behind. Tell me about Earth, Damon Murphy. I've studied your planet extensively, but textbooks can't capture the essence of a world. The use of his full name startled him. You've researched me. Naturally. Her lips curved into that same mischievous smile he remembered. I like to know who guards my life. Damon maintained his professional stance, though his resolve wavered under her direct gaze. Earth is diverse, oceans and mountains, deserts and forests, not unlike many habitable worlds. And its people? Are they all... Her eyes traveled down his form appreciatively. Physically impressive as you? Heat crept up his neck. We come in all shapes and sizes, my lady. Please, when we're speaking privately, call me Adra." She reached out, her fingers lightly touching the emblem on his armor. This symbol, the intertwined serpents, represents eternal binding in our culture. Did you know that? I was told it represented House Draven's lineage. That too. She stepped even closer, close enough that he could feel the warmth radiating from her skin. Symbols often carry multiple meanings, like words, like actions. One of her handmaidens cleared her throat pointedly, and Adra sighed. "I've been informed there's a security concern regarding my upcoming public appearance," she said, her tone shifting to something more formal. "Father insists I have additional protection." Damon straightened. This at least was familiar territory. "I haven't been briefed on any specific threats, but increased security for public events is standard procedure." "Good. Then you won't object to being assigned as my personal guard for the duration of the Lunar Festival." Her smile returned, more subtle but no less affecting. "Commander Thorn has already approved the arrangement." Damon's mind raced. Close proximity to Lady Idra for 3 full days during the most celebrated festival in Drevany culture? It was both thrilling and dangerous. "I'll ensure your safety, my lady." "Adra," she corrected softly, "and I have no doubt you will, Damon Murphy of Earth." She turned to leave, then paused. "The festival begins tomorrow at sunset. Come to my chambers an hour before. My handmaidens will provide you with appropriate attire. The regular security uniform would be conspicuous." As she walked away, her handmaidens falling into step behind her, Damon released a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. This assignment was professionally risky. Being alone with the woman who had so boldly propositioned him, but refusing would raise questions he couldn't answer. That evening, Damon found himself in Commander Thorn's office, receiving his new assignment. "Lady Audra specifically requested you," Thorn said, his tone neutral, but his eyes sharp. "Apparently, she was impressed by your handling of the reception last week." "I'm honored by her confidence, sir." Thorn leaned forward, lowering his voice. "The Lunar Festival is significant, Murphy. It celebrates fertility and new beginnings. Many young Drevani choose their life mates during these 3 days." He paused meaningfully. "Lady Idra's engagement to Lord Vrex will be formally announced at the festival's conclusion." "I understand, sir." "Do you?" Thorn's gaze hardened. "House Proxia has spies everywhere. The slightest hint of impropriety involving Lady Adri could jeopardize the alliance. Your duty is to protect her physically while ensuring her reputation remains untarnished." "Absolutely, sir. Professional boundaries will be maintained at all times." Thorn nodded, seemingly satisfied. "Good. The lady can be willful. Her interest in other species, particularly humans, is well known among the household staff. I'll say it's academic curiosity, nothing more." Academic curiosity. Damon replayed Adra's whispered proposition in his mind. It hadn't sounded academic. Later that night, alone in his quarters, Damon paced restlessly. The logical part of his brain screamed warnings. This attraction was dangerous, potentially career-ending, possibly even life-threatening if Lord Vrex took offense. Yet he couldn't deny the pull he felt toward her, something beyond mere physical attraction. He stopped before the small mirror in his quarters, studying his reflection. What did she see when she looked at him? Just an exotic specimen from a distant world? A temporary diversion before her political marriage? Or something more? Tomorrow would bring him into her inner circle, away from the public eye of the palace. Whatever game Lady Idra was playing, Damon was now irrevocably part of it. And despite every warning bell in his mind, he found himself looking forward to sunset. The chambers of Lady Idra were more modest than Damon had imagined, elegant but not ostentatious, with flowing fabrics in shades of deep blue and silver draping the walls. As promised, her handmaidens had prepared attire for him. A formal Drevani tunic in midnight blue with silver accents that echoed House Dravan's colors while allowing him to blend with the festival attendees. "The garment suits you remarkably well," Adra said, emerging from her dressing room. Her festival attire took his breath away, a gown that seemed woven from moonlight itself, shifting between silver and pale blue with her every movement. Delicate chains of precious metal adorned her bare shoulders, and her silver-white hair was partially braided with luminous stones that caught the light. "You look—" Damon searched for an appropriate word that wouldn't cross professional boundaries. "Acceptable?" she teased, her violet eyes sparkling with mischief. "Radiant," he admitted. Her smile widened. "A human compliment. How refreshing compared to the practiced flattery of the court." She approached him, adjusting the collar of his tunic with nimble fingers. "The traditional guard's uniform would have marked you as staff. Tonight, you'll appear as my companion. Your father and Commander Thorn might object to that arrangement. My father is occupied with diplomatic matters, and Commander Thorn answers to me in matters of my personal security." Her fingers lingered at his collar. "Besides, the festival allows certain liberties that would be inappropriate at other times." Before Damon could respond, a soft chime announced the festival's commencement. Adra stepped back, composing herself into the regal heiress once more. "We should join the procession," she said. "Stay close to me, Damon." The crowds will be substantial. The main courtyard of the palace had been transformed. Thousands of floating lanterns drifted overhead, casting a dreamlike glow across the assembled Dravani nobility. Musicians played haunting melodies on instruments that resembled elongated harps, their notes seeming to shimmer visibly in the air. As they descended the grand staircase, Damon noted the subtle shift in how the crowd regarded them. Curious glances, raised eyebrows, whispered comments behind jeweled hands. Lady Adra, seemingly oblivious, greeted various nobles with practiced grace while maintaining a proprietary hand on Damon's arm. "They're staring," he murmured. "Of course they are," she replied, her smile never faltering. "I've brought a human as my festival companion. It's deliciously scandalous." "Is that why you requested me? To create scandal?" Her eyes flicked to his, suddenly serious. "No, Damon Murphy, that's merely a pleasant side benefit." The festival procession wound through the palace grounds and into the city beyond. Streets were lined with cheering Dravani citizens, throwing petals of luminescent flowers that dissolved into sparkling dust upon contact. Damon remained vigilant despite the festive atmosphere, scanning the crowds for potential threats while trying to ignore the warmth of Adra's body pressed against his side. They arrived at a vast circular plaza dominated by a pool of water, so still it perfectly reflected the 3 moons of Drava Prime. The noble houses took their positions around the pool, with House Draven occupying the place of honor. "The reflection ceremony," Adra explained softly. "When the moons align, their light touches the water and is said to reveal truths hidden in the heart." "Scientific basis?" Damon asked, his practical nature asserting itself. Her laugh was like wind chimes. "Not everything needs empirical explanation, Earthman. Some things simply are." As the ceremony began, Adra guided him away from her father's immediate circle, finding a secluded alcove still within view of the pool, but sheltered from prying eyes by decorative columns. "The alignment won't occur for another 20 minutes, she said. "Time enough for you to satisfy my curiosity." "About Earth?" "About humans." Her voice dropped lower. "Your species fascinates me. So young in galactic terms, yet so passionate, so determined. When humans want something, truly want it, nothing stands in your way." "That's a romanticized view," Damon replied. "We're not so different from other species." "Aren't you?" She stepped closer, the moonlight casting ethereal patterns across her azure skin. "Your kind survived nuclear wars, environmental collapse, and first contact with species that could have easily conquered you. Instead, you thrived, expanded, and earned your place among the stars through sheer force of will." Her hand found his chest, resting over his heart. This is what makes humans unique, the intensity with which you feel, the fire that drives you." Damon knew he should step back, maintain distance, but found himself frozen under her touch. "Lady Adri—" "Just Idra," she corrected, her voice barely above a whisper. "Tonight I am not a title or a political asset. Tonight I am simply myself." The music swelled as the moons began their convergence overhead. Around them, the assembled nobles gasped in appreciation as the first moonbeam struck the water, sending ripples of silver light across the surface. "Beautiful," Damon murmured, momentarily distracted by the spectacle. Yes, Idra agreed. Though when he turned back, he found her eyes fixed not on the ceremony, but on him. Tradition says that desires revealed during the alignment cannot be denied. Her meaning was unmistakable. Damon felt his carefully constructed, professional walls crumbling under her gaze. "This is dangerous," he said, his voice rough. "All worthwhile things are—" She leaned closer, her breath warm against his ear. "My quarters have a private entrance through the eastern gardens. The celebration will continue until dawn. No one would notice our absence for an hour." The invitation hung between them, heavy with possibility and consequence. Every rational thought in Damon's mind screamed caution, but another part, a part he'd kept rigidly controlled throughout his military career, urged him to seize this moment, consequences be damned. As the three moons aligned perfectly overhead, bathing the plaza in silver radiance, Damon made his decision. With a subtle nod that only Idra could see, he sealed both their fates. Her smile was radiant, triumphant, and tinged with something that might have been genuine affection. "Follow me," she whispered, but not too closely. "Join me in the garden in 10 minutes. As she slipped away into the crowd, Damon watched her go, knowing that when he followed, and he would follow, his life would irrevocably change. The question that remained was whether that change would lead to ruin or to something he hadn't dared hope for in years. A genuine connection with another soul, however forbidden it might be. Dawn broke over Dreva Prime with a cascade of amber and rose that filtered through the ornate lattice windows of Idra's private chambers. Damon woke first, years of military discipline making early rising second nature. For a moment, disorientation gripped him as he took in the unfamiliar surroundings, the silken sheets, the subtle fragrance of alien flowers, the soft blue arm draped across his chest. Reality crashed back with stunning clarity. What had seemed magical and inevitable under the three moons now appeared reckless in the harsh light of morning. He had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. Beside him, Idra stirred. Her silver-white hair splayed across the pillows like a halo. Her eyes fluttered open, those remarkable violet irises focusing on his face with sleepy contentment. "You're thinking too loudly," she murmured, tracing a finger along his jawline. "I can practically hear the regret forming." "Not regret," Damon said carefully. "Concern." She propped herself up on one elbow, studying him with an intensity that made him feel exposed in ways that had nothing to do with their state of undress. "Humans are fascinating. You experience pleasure so completely, yet afterward, you immediately begin calculating consequences. It's called survival instinct." Her laugh was soft, intimate. "What happened between us was extraordinary. Your species has a remarkable capacity for connection." She placed her palm against his chest. "Your heart beats differently than mine. Stronger, more insistent." Damon covered her hand with his own. "Idra, what happened was precisely what I wanted," she interrupted. "What we both wanted. The festival allows such freedoms, even for someone in my position. And after the festival?" Her expression sobered. "After the festival, reality reasserts itself. The alliance with House Proxia will proceed as planned." Despite having known this, Damon felt an unexpected pang. Then this was a moment out of time, she finished for him, but no less meaningful for its brevity. She leaned down, pressing her forehead against his in what he recognized as a Dravani gesture of affection. "I meant what I said that first night, Damon. We would make beautiful children." Before he could respond, a sharp knock at the outer chamber door jolted them both to alertness. Idra's eyes widened. "No one should be calling this early," she whispered, quickly rising and wrapping herself in a robe. "My handmaidens know better." Damon was already moving, retrieving his scattered clothing with practiced efficiency. "Could be security. I should be visible." "No," Idra hissed. "Use the servant's passage. If you're seen leaving my chambers at dawn..." The knocking came again, more insistent. "Lady Idra," Commander Thorne's voice carried through the door. "A matter requires your immediate attention." Damon froze, tunic half-fastened. Thorne, of all people. The commander would immediately recognize the implications if he found Damon here. Idra gestured frantically toward an unobtrusive panel in the wall. "Go. I'll handle this. With a quick nod, Damon slipped through the hidden doorway just as Adra composed herself and called for Thorn to enter. The passage was narrow and dimly lit, clearly designed for servants to move unobtrusively through the palace. He navigated by touch, hearing muffled voices from the chamber he just left. The passage eventually opened into a small antechamber near the kitchens. Damon straightened his festival attire, attempting to look as though he was simply returning from the night's celebrations rather than sneaking from the ladies' quarters. He had nearly reached his own chambers when a voice stopped him cold. Interesting choice of patrol route, Murphy. Damon turned to find Commander Thorn leaning against the wall, arms crossed. The Dravani's expression was unreadable. Sir, I was just returning from... Spare me, Thorn cut him off. I know exactly where you've been. Damon's hand instinctively moved toward his sidearm, but it wasn't there. He'd left it in Idra's chambers. Thorn noticed the movement and snorted. If I wanted you dead, human, you would be already. The lady's indiscretions are not my primary concern at the moment. Then what is? House Proxia has arrived early. Lord Vrex himself, along with an entourage of advisors and guards. They're requesting an immediate audience with Lord Draven and his daughter. Damon felt the blood drain from his face. Why the change in schedule? Rumors, Thorn said flatly. Apparently, whispers of Lady Adra's interest in a certain human guard have reached Proxian ears. Lord Vrex is not pleased. How could they possibly... Eyes are everywhere in this palace, Murphy. Walls have ears. The festival may allow certain freedoms, but discretion is still expected. Thorn pushed himself away from the wall, stepping closer. Lord Draven has requested your presence at the audience as well. Damon squared his shoulders, mind racing through scenarios, none of them good. When? 1 hour, throne room. Thorn's eyes narrowed. Wear your formal armor, not that festival costume. And Murphy, Anya, yes, Commander? Whatever happened between you and the lady, it ends now, for both your sakes. There was something in Thorn's voice that might have been sympathy. House Proxia does not share, and they do not forgive. As Thorn walked away, Damon leaned against the wall, the weight of consequences finally settling on his shoulders. One night of passion, and now he faced not just professional disgrace, but potentially diplomatic incident. Yet even knowing the danger, he couldn't bring himself to regret what had happened between them. Idra had awakened something in him he'd thought long buried beneath years of discipline and duty, a capacity for connection, for vulnerability, for something that might, given time, have become love. Now he had 1 hour to prepare to face her betrothed, to stand before the man she was promised to, and somehow mask what had transpired between them. 1 hour to decide where his loyalties truly lay, with his duty as a guard, or with the woman who had whispered to beautiful children under the light of 3 moons. Damon arrived at his quarters with barely enough time to prepare. His formal armor, polished obsidian plates with silver inlay, felt heavier than usual as he secured each piece. The House Draven emblem on his breastplate seemed to mock him, a constant reminder of his betrayal of trust. A soft knock interrupted his preparations. Opening the door cautiously, he found a palace servant holding a sealed message tube. From Lady Idra, the servant whispered, pressing the tube into his hand before hurrying away. Inside was a small data crystal and a handwritten note in elegant script. Meet me in the Whispering Gallery. 15 minutes before the audience. Destroy this. Damon crushed the note and flushed it down the waste disposal, then slipped the data crystal into a hidden compartment in his armor. The Whispering Gallery was a curved corridor connecting the royal apartments to the throne room, named for its unusual acoustic properties that allowed whispered conversations to be heard clearly at specific points. When he arrived, Adra was already waiting, dressed in formal attire that emphasized her status as House Draven's heiress. Her usual warmth was replaced by a tightly controlled intensity. "We don't have much time, she said without preamble. Lord Vrex arrived with 12 guards and his personal inquisitor. Inquisitor? Proxians have developed technology that detects physiological responses to questioning. It's barbaric but effective. Her voice was clipped, professional. My father doesn't know about us, but he suspects. He's been looking for a way out of this alliance for months. Damon blinked in surprise. He doesn't want the marriage to proceed? House Proxia's resources are valuable, but Lord Vrex is cruel. My father has heard rumors about his previous consorts. Idra's composure slipped momentarily, revealing genuine fear. None survived more than 2 years. The protective instinct that had served Damon through years of combat flared instantly. Then why agree to the alliance at all? Politics, she said bitterly. House Proxia controls the primary shipping lanes to 3 key systems. Without access, our economy would collapse. She took a deep breath. The data crystal contains evidence of Rex's treatment of his former consorts. My father needs this to justify breaking the alliance. How did you obtain this? A ghost of her mischievous smile returned. I have resources of my own, Damon Murphy. Not all of my education was in diplomacy and etiquette. The implications were clear. Idra was far more than the sheltered heiress she appeared to be. What's your plan? He asked. Lord Vrex will almost certainly challenge your presence. He'll demand proof of my, purity. Her cheeks darkened to a deeper blue in what Damon now recognized as a Dravani blush. When he does, my father will counter by questioning Vrex's suitability as a consort. That's when you'll present the evidence. And if Vrex reacts violently? He will, she said with certainty. That's why I need you there. His guards are loyal to him personally, not to any diplomatic protocol. Damon nodded, understanding dawning. You're using me as both shield and sword. I'm trusting you, she corrected, stepping closer. There's a difference. Their eyes met, and in that moment, the formal masks they'd both adopted fell away. Damon saw not just desire in her gaze, but something deeper, a vulnerability she showed to no one else. Last night wasn't just festival freedom for you, was it? He asked quietly. No more than it was for you. She reached up, her fingers brushing his cheek with heartbreaking tenderness. Humans aren't the only ones capable of forming attachments quickly, Damon. The distant chime of the palace chronometer interrupted the moment. Idra stepped back, composing herself once more into the regal heiress. It's time. Remember, let my father lead the conversation. Vrex will reveal his true nature if properly provoked. They walked separately to the throne room, maintaining appropriate distance. As they approached the massive doors emblazoned with House Dreven's emblem, Idra whispered without turning, Whatever happens, know that I chose you, Damon Murphy, not out of rebellion or curiosity, but because I saw something in you worth choosing. Before he could respond, the door swung open. The throne room of House Draven was a marvel of alien architecture. Soaring ceilings supported by columns that resembled petrified trees, their branches intertwining to form natural arches. Lord Draven, a stately Dravani male with silver-streaked azure skin, sat upon a raised dais. Beside him stood Commander Thorne and several high-ranking House officials. Across the room, a delegation of Proxians waited. Their leader was unmistakable. Lord Vrex stood taller than his companions, his skin a deep indigo that bordered on black. Unlike the flowing garments favored by Dravani nobility, he wore a form-fitting suit that emphasized his powerful physique. His eyes, yellow with vertical pupils like a predatory cat, fixed on Idra the moment she entered. My betrothed, Vrex's voice was surprisingly melodious, belying the coldness of his gaze. I've come to expedite our union. The festival seems to have inspired unfortunate rumors. His eyes flicked to Damon, narrowing slightly. Lord Draven rose, his expression carefully neutral. Lord Vrex, we welcome you. Though your early arrival was unexpected, the formal announcement was scheduled for the festival's conclusion. Circumstances change, Vrex replied smoothly. I prefer to secure my investments promptly when complications arise. Investments, not alliance, not union, not even marriage. Damon felt Idra stiffen beside him, though her face revealed nothing. My daughter is not an investment, Lord Vrex, Draven said, a hint of steel entering his voice. Is she not? Vrex smiled, showing teeth too sharp for comfort. Then perhaps you can explain why your precious heiress has been seen in the company of this human during intimate festival rituals. The accusation hung in the air like poison gas. Damon maintained parade rest, eyes forward, expression neutral. Every inch the professional soldier, despite the hammering of his heart. Lord Draven's gaze swept over Damon, then returned to Vrex. My daughter's security is paramount. The human serves at my command. Does he serve in her bedchamber as well? Vrex's voice dripped with malice. My sources report otherwise. The room went deathly silent. Damon felt the weight of every eye upon him, measuring, judging. This was the moment Idra had predicted, the challenge that would set their plan in motion. But before Lord Draven could respond, Vrex made a subtle gesture. One of his guards stepped forward, activating a small device that projected a holographic image into the center of the throne room. Damon's blood froze. There, rendered in perfect detail, was the eastern garden path leading to the Idra's private entrance, and two figures moving through it in the moonlight, their identities unmistakable. The holographic evidence hung in the air, damning in its clarity. Damon felt rather than saw Commander Thorne's hand move to his weapon. The Dravani guard shifted subtly, preparing for potential violence. The tension in the throne room was thick enough to cut with a blade. Lord Vrex's smile widened, revealing more of those unnaturally sharp teeth. I believe Proxian tradition offers a clear resolution to such indiscretions. His yellow eyes fixed on Damon with predatory intensity. The human will face me in the circle of honor. If he survives, the insult to my honor is cleansed. If not, he shrugged elegantly. Well, that outcome seems most likely. Damon recognized the trap immediately. A duel would mean certain death. Not because he lacked skill, but because Proxian dueling traditions were notoriously rigged in favor of the challenged party. He'd heard stories during his military days of Proxian duelists who could move with blinding speed, their reflexes enhanced by both evolution and technology. Before Damon could respond, Lord Draven rose from his throne, his expression thunderous. You speak of honor, Lord Vrex, yet you send spies into my household? His voice remained measured, but carried throughout the chamber. You monitor my daughter's private quarters? Perhaps we should discuss what other surveillance you've conducted within House Draven's walls. Vrex's smile faltered slightly. Prudent precautions, nothing more. A wise man ensures his investments are sound. There's that word again, Lord Draven said softly. Investment. You speak of my daughter, the heiress to House Draven, as though she were a commodity to be acquired? Is she not? Vrex countered. This alliance has always been about combining our house's resources and influence. Let's not pretend sentiment plays any role. Damon watched Daedra from the corner of his eye. Her face remained composed, but her hands were clenched so tightly at her sides that her knuckles had paled to a lighter blue. Perhaps, Lord Draven continued, his tone deceptively casual. If my daughter finds more appeal in a human guard than in her intended husband, we should reconsider whether this alliance truly serves House Draven's interest. A dangerous silence fell. Vrex's yellow eyes narrowed to slits. You would jeopardize our agreement over a servant's transgression? His voice had lost its melodious quality, becoming harsh and grating. The shipping lanes will remain closed to Dravani vessels. Your economy will collapse within a standard year. Perhaps, since Lord Draven agreed, or perhaps we'll find new partners. The Terran Confederation has expressed interest in our mineral rights. Humans seem quite compatible with our interests lately. The calculated insult hit its mark. Vrex's composure cracked, revealing the rage beneath. With a snarl, he stepped forward. Enough games! The human dies for his presumption, or the alliance ends now, with all the consequences that entails. Damon moved without conscious thought, stepping between Vrex and Lord Draven. His hand didn't reach for his weapon. That would have triggered an immediate response from Vrex's guards, but his stance made his intentions clear. He would protect House Draven, even at the cost of his life. I accept your challenge, Damon said, his voice steady. Years of combat had taught him to control fear, to channel it into focus. The circle of honor. But as the challenged party, I claim the right to select weapons according to interstellar dueling protocols. Vrex laughed, a harsh sound like breaking glass. You think to outmaneuver me with legal technicalities, human? Very well. Name your weapon. It will make no difference. Information, Damon said clearly, retrieving the data crystal from his armor. I choose truth as my weapon. Before Vrex could object, Damon activated the crystal. A new hologram replaced the image of him and Adra in the garden. This one showed a Proxian female with bruises covering her indigo skin, cowering from a looming figure whose identity was unmistakable. The hologram shifted, showing another female, this one clearly pregnant, being dragged away by Proxian guards. Then another, lying motionless on an ornate floor, a pool of dark liquid spreading beneath her. What is this? Vrex hissed, his guards moving forward only to be blocked by Commander Thorn and his men. The fate of your previous consort, Damon replied, his voice hard. 3 wives, 3 deaths, all conveniently explained away as complications or accidents. The last was carrying your child when she mysteriously fell down a flight of stairs. Lord Draven's expression had hardened to stone. Is this verified? The sources are impeccable, Adra spoke for the first time, her voice clear and strong. Medical records, witness testimonies, security footage from Vrex's own compound, all authenticated. Lies and fabrications, Vrex snarled, but his eyes darted nervously to his own delegation, several of whom had stepped back, their expressions troubled. The Terran Confederation takes a particular interest in cases of domestic violence, Damon continued, drawing on his knowledge of interstellar law. They would find this evidence compelling, enough to justify sanctions against any house that aligned with such practices. The strategic implication was clear. Even if House Draven suffered from broken ties with Proxia, House Proxia would face isolation from human trade routes, a far more devastating prospect in the long term. Vrex's face contorted with rage. You dare threaten me? A human servant? His hand moved to a concealed weapon at his waist. Damon tensed, ready to move. This was the moment where everything could dissolve into violence, where duty and desire might both end in bloodshed. But before Vrex could draw, Adra stepped forward, her regal bearing commanding attention. Lord Vrex, she said, her voice carrying the authority of generations of Dravani nobility, you came seeking proof of my purity, yet have revealed only the impurity of your own character. The alliance is ended. House Draven withdraws its consent. You have no authority, Vrex began, but Lord Draven cut him off. She speaks with my voice and the voice of our house, he declared. The evidence is clear. There will be no union between our houses. He gestured to Commander Thorn. Escort Lord Vrex and his delegation to their vessels. They depart immediately. For a moment it seemed Vrex might resist, his guards tensed, hands on weapons. But a quick assessment of the room, the determined faces of the Draveni guards, the cold fury in Lord Draven's eyes, and the unwavering stance of the human who had outmaneuvered him, seemed to convince him that this battle was lost. This isn't over, he promised, his voice low and venomous as he backed toward the door. No one humiliates House Proxia without consequence. As Vrex and his delegation were escorted out, Damon remained at attention, aware that while one crisis had been averted, his own fate remained uncertain. He had helped save Adra from a monstrous marriage, but at what cost to himself and to her? Lord Draven's eyes fell upon him, measuring, calculating. The fate of a human guard and perhaps of a human Dravani relationship that had never been contemplated in the long history of either species hung in the balance. The silence in the throne room stretched like an elastic band ready to snap. Damon remained at attention, his military training the only thing keeping him steady under Lord Draven's penetrating gaze. Damon Murphy of Earth, Lord Draven finally spoke, his tone unreadable. You have placed me in a most unusual position. Damon swallowed hard. My lord, I accept full responsibility for my actions. Do you? Lord Draven rose from his throne, descending the steps with deliberate grace. You accept responsibility for saving my daughter from a monster? For providing the evidence that allowed me to break an alliance I never wanted? A hint of amusement colored his voice. How very human of you. Confusion replaced Damon's dread. Sir? Father, Adra stepped forward, her composure perfect despite the emotional turmoil of the past hour. Damon acted with honor throughout. Any indiscretion was mutual. Lord Draven waved a hand dismissively. The festival allows certain freedoms, daughter. I'm not concerned about tradition. He circled Damon slowly, appraising him with new interest. What concerns me is the future. House Proxia will retaliate, perhaps not immediately, but eventually. And without their shipping lanes, we must secure new alliances quickly. Commander Thorn approached, bowing slightly. My lord, our intelligence suggests Lord Vrex's ship is preparing for immediate departure. Good. Maintain surveillance until they've left our system. Lord Draven turned back to Damon. Tell me, human, what do you know of Terran Dravani relations? Limited, sir. Our species have maintained cordial diplomatic ties, but little substantial trade or cultural exchange. Indeed, a missed opportunity, perhaps. Lord Draven's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. The Terran Confederation controls resource-rich systems we've long wished to access. They've expressed interest in our technological advancements, particularly in medicine and terraforming. Damon began to see where this was heading. You're suggesting a formal alliance with Earth? I'm suggesting, Lord Draven said carefully, that certain personal connections might facilitate such an alliance. Adra's eyes widened. Father? A proximity alarm shattered the moment. Commander Thorn's communicator buzzed urgently. Proxian vessels have powered weapon, he reported sharply. They're targeting our orbital defenses. Lord Draven's expression hardened. It seems Lord Vrex is a poor loser. Activate planetary shields. The palace trembled as distant defense systems engaged. Damon's combat instincts kicked in immediately. My lord, we should move you and Lady Idra to the secure bunker, he said, already scanning for the most protected exit route. Not yet, Lord Draven replied calmly. Our shields will hold for now. This is merely Vrex's parting tantrum. Another tremor, stronger this time, shook the throne room. Dust drifted down from the ornate ceiling. That wasn't orbital bombardment, Damon said, his years of combat experience recognizing the difference. That was closer, ground-based explosion. Commander Thorn's communicator buzzed again. Infiltration team detected in the East Wing. They must have deployed before Vrex's ship departed. Assassination squad, Damon concluded grimly. Classic Proxian tactic. If you can't win, ensure no one else does either. Lord Draven's calm finally cracked. Adra, .. I'll protect her, Damon promised, drawing his sidearm. Commander, secure Lord Draven. I'll get Lady Idra to the panic room in the West Tower. Thorn hesitated only briefly before nodding. Take Guardsman Pell and Riven with you. No, Damon countered. More people means more noise and a larger target. I move better alone with her. Without waiting for further debate, Damon took Adra's arm and guided her toward a concealed service passage, the same network of corridors he'd used to escape her chambers that morning. You know the palace well for someone who's only been here 6 months, she remarked as they moved swiftly through the dimly lit passage. I memorized the security schematics my first week. Professional habit. They paused at a junction, listening. Distant sounds of combat echoed through the stone walls, energy weapons discharge and shouted commands. They're in the main corridor, Damon whispered. We'll have to go through the gardens. Adra nodded, surprisingly calm despite the danger. There's a hidden entrance behind the moonflower trellis. They emerged into the gardens, staying low among the exotic foliage. The twin suns had begun to set, casting long shadows that provided additional cover. Damon kept Adra behind him, weapon ready as they moved from cover to cover. They were halfway to the West Tower when a Proxian commando stepped out from behind a decorative statue, weapon raised. Damon fired first, dropping the attacker with a clean shot to the chest, but the noise would attract others. Run! He urged Idra, covering their retreat as 2 more commandos appeared on the garden path. Energy bolt sizzled past them as they sprinted for the tower entrance. Damon returned fire, his human reflexes, honed by years of combat, proving faster than the Proxians anticipated. One fell, then another, but more were coming. They reached the hidden entrance, Adra's fingers working quickly to unlock the concealed panel. As it slid open, a final Proxian appeared, weapon aimed directly at her back. Damon didn't hesitate. He threw himself between Adra and the attacker, feeling the searing pain of an energy bolt grazing his shoulder as he fired back. His shot found its mark, and the Proxian collapsed. Damon! Adra pulled him through the doorway, which sealed automatically behind them. You're injured. Superficial, He grunted, though the burn radiated pain down his arm. The panic room is 2 levels up. By the time they reached the secure chamber, the palace defenses had been fully activated. Through armored windows, they watched Proxian ships retreating under heavy fire from Drevany defense platforms. Vrex miscalculated, Adra observed, applying a medical patch to Damon's wounded shoulder. He thought a quick strike would leave us vulnerable. He didn't account for human reflexes, Damon replied with a slight smile. Or human stubbornness. Her fingers lingered on his skin. You saved my life. Just doing my job. No, she said softly. Your job was to guard diplomatic halls and look intimidating at receptions. This was something else entirely. Before he could respond, the communication panel activated, showing Lord Draven's face. The threat has been neutralized, he reported. House Proxia will face severe diplomatic consequences for this attack. Are you both secure? Yes, Father, Adra replied. Damon was wounded protecting me, but he'll recover. Lord Draven's expression softened. It seems I owe you a greater debt than I realized, Damon Murphy. He paused, seeming to come to a decision. When you're cleared by medical, join me in my private study. There are matters we must discuss regarding your future with House Draven. The screen went dark, leaving them alone in the softly lit panic room. What do you think he wants to discuss? Damon asked. Oh, Adra's violet eyes held a mixture of hope and mischief. Perhaps he's finally ready to consider what I told him months ago. Which was that Drevany human genetic compatibility studies show remarkable potential. She moved closer, her azure fingers tracing the line of his jaw. That our children would indeed be beautiful, and potentially key to a new era of alliance between our peoples. Understanding dawned. You knew this all along. Your interest in me wasn't just physical attraction or rebellion against your arranged marriage. Those elements were certainly present, she admitted with a smile. But yes, I had greater aspirations. Our geneticists have theorized that human adaptability combined with Drevany longevity could create offspring with extraordinary capabilities. Her expression grew more serious. What I didn't anticipate was how quickly I would come to care for you beyond any political or genetic calculation. Damon pulled her closer, his duty and desire finally aligned. So when you whispered about beautiful children that first night, I meant every word, she finished for him, though perhaps not quite so soon. Diplomatic courtship first, I think. 3 months later, Damon stood on the balcony of what were now his official quarters in the east wing of the palace. His new uniform, formal diplomatic attire that combined Terran and Drevany elements, still felt strange after years in combat armor, but he was adjusting to his role as House Draven's liaison to the Terran Confederation. Lord Draven had proven surprisingly supportive once he'd confirmed the genetic compatibility reports. House Draven has always valued strength through diversity, he'd explained, and humans have proven themselves worthy allies. The formal announcement of Damon and Adra's courtship had sent ripples through interstellar diplomatic circles. Some traditionalists on both sides expressed skepticism, but the economic benefits of the strengthened Terran-Drevany alliance quickly silenced most critics. House Proxia had been sanctioned by the Galactic Council for their unprovoked attack, their influence diminished. Lord Vrex had disappeared into the outer systems, his threats of vengeance fading into empty echoes. Warm arms encircled Damon from behind, and he felt Adra's cheek press against his back. Contemplating the stars again? She asked. Contemplating how quickly life can change, he replied, turning to face her. 6 months ago, I was just another security contractor. Now I'm helping shape interstellar policy and courting the most beautiful woman in the sector. Her laugh was like music. And to think it all began with a whispered suggestion about genetics. Is that what we're calling it now? He teased, pulling her closer. Well, the diplomatic reports certainly can't say, Lady Adra propositioned a human guard during a formal reception, she replied with mock seriousness. Genetic compatibility studies sounds much more dignified. As the 3 moons of Dreva Prime rose in the night sky, Damon kissed her, no longer torn between duty and desire. They had found a path that honored both, and perhaps someday those beautiful children she had whispered about would indeed become reality. Living symbols of what humans and aliens could accomplish together. For now, though, this moment was enough. This woman, this world, this unexpected life among the stars.